Welcome to the Clarity Coach Podcast with Rockie Lee, strategic intervention coach, specializing with singles and couples, helping them find clarity in life, in relationships, and in personal development. And now, here's your host.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 20 of Clarity Coach Love Talks. So my regular co-host, Kimberly, is away today, but I have a very special guest joining us today. Today, I'd like to introduce you to my good friend, Sarah Surh. Now, Sarah is an actor, writer, producer, and filmmaker. You can catch her on so many shows. Some of them are out right now. For example, Just One Kiss and Romance to the Rescue on Hallmark, as well as Sonic 2. So she's actually the perfect guest for this show today because she's on all of these romance movies. They're awesome. Now, if you want to check her out, her Instagram handle is at Sarah Surh, and Surh is S-U-R-H. So welcome to the show, Sarah.
Thank you. Thank you.
Now, today, Sarah and I are going to be talking about some of the most asked questions from married couples needing help. So Sarah's got all the questions. We got them loaded up, and they're all coming in from places like, say, Twitter or Instagram, or even sometimes I just bump into people and they ask me a whole lot of questions. So we thought that these questions would be great for us to just talk through and answer together. So take us away, Sarah. What questions do we have that we want to launch into here?
All right. So some of these are the most common questions that married people ask or wonder about, or, they ask or wonder openly or privately, But first things first, I just want to say, let's take the shame out of asking these questions about marriage, because let's face it, anybody who is married knows we have all thought this, we have all wondered, and we all have problems and issues. So thank you so much for doing this, because I feel like the more we do this, the more we talk about it, the less alone we feel, and we realize we don't need to be living in shame. This is common. This is why we do this. So
that's right.
You,
thank you for bringing that up. That's so well said.
Okay, so the first question is, and it's a big one, can you save a marriage that has been hurt through an affair?
Oh, this is so good.
Yeah.
Okay. Quick answer, yes. I've seen it happen. I have had clients who have had a really bad situation happen with affairs, and they were able to heal their marriage. And let me tell you why it's possible. Whether it's an affair or any other reason, whether it's an addiction or finances, those are the three most common things that people have a conception about that breaks up marriages. Or whether it's something else. Here's the key. You can heal any marriage if you both choose to work on it. If you both choose to love each other so much that you're willing to double down on it, get help, humble yourself, and really apply the work. Now, part of applying the work is really about just owning it. We have to really own it. We've got to own what our part was that either got in the way of love happening in our marriage, or we've got to own the part where I purposefully did something that hurt, damaged, or broke trust in the relationship. So quick answer, yes, you can heal it. It has happened. I've got many clients that have done that already. You can do that. You can heal a marriage that has gone through affairs.
Yeah. And that kind of touches up on the whole shame aspect too. When you own up to it, is don't live in shame, because you can't get past that.
Exactly.
That's so good. Okay. Next question. Can you really have a healthy marriage when only one person wants to put the work in it?
Yes. The answer is yes.
How, Rockie?
So let's talk about the misconception. So the misconception that people have, and we actually arrived at this misconception through a common colloquialism that we have in North America. Okay. So this common colloquialism sounds like this, that love is a two-way street.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So our interpretation of that in North America is that if I put X amount of percentage and energy into this marriage, you'll be doing it back. Right. So that's kind of how we interpret that. So what that typically means in marriage is that I usually have couples believe, hey, I can only heal or save my marriage, right, if my partner wants to be in on the work as well. It can't be done by one person. That's how we normally interpret it. The truth of the matter is that one person can actually heal the marriage. One person can do the work, and it does affect the marriage. And here's the reason why. If we go back to the colloquialism, it takes two to create love, right? Love is a two-way street.
Right.
What or how that should be interpreted is this, is that on one hand, I am giving you love. Okay, that's the one-way street. The two-way street is actually me saying, as much as I'm going to equally give you love, I'm equally going to open up my heart to receive love.
Right.
So that's actually the better way of interpreting that colloquialism.
Right.
Now, how does that translate to marriage? The reality is that as long as one person is fully committed to the values, the desire for that marriage, they can actually make it work. They can really heal the marriage. It doesn't really need two people on the same page. All right. So that's the basis, because it's all within our control. We can actually create this process. My marriage is a testament of this. And let me qualify that. Most people think, because I'm a professional relationship coach, my marriage must be perfect. And it's not. My marriage is normal like anybody else's marriage. I am a normal husband, and, and my wife's a normal wife. And here's the catch. In my marriage, I can only show up as the husband. I cannot show up as the marriage counselor, the therapist, or the professional relationship coach.
You do not want to do that.
Exactly. So that means all the stuff that my couples get in my sessions, I cannot teach that to my wife unless my wife asks or gives me permission to do so.
Correct.
So anything other than that's actually a conflict of interest.
Right.
So I've actually had to take, in my marriage, I've had to take my tools and apply it all on my own. And I can tell you that when we truly love somebody, it really does affect people. Whether we like it or not, we do truly make a big impact in people's lives. We do truly affect people. So it's really all about whether I'm going to show up that way and whether I'm going to give it all in loving somebody that way. Now, there are anomalies to this process. And the tendency is that we take the anomalies and we make that the basis of an argument in general. So there are anomalies where there is a partner who has already committed, nope, I don't want this, I am out, I'm shutting down, and I don't want to do any work.
Yeah.
Absolutely. In those cases, and those are the anomalies, they're really not the norm.
Right.
But in those cases, you're right. You really can't heal the marriage. It does need some sort of participation. But in most marriages, I find that people are not that shut down. It's just that we're so covered up in so much hurt that we feel like only two people can bring the healing. But in reality, one person can. And here's a simple example of how we can do that. I think that we actually underrate and undervalue an apology. Does that make sense?
Apology.
So like just me saying sorry to my wife can actually bring so much healing, right? And that didn't need two people. Yeah. That just needed one person to just simply say, honey, I am so sorry I did that. Will you please forgive me?
Yeah. And people will know if it's a real sorry.
Yeah.
So make sure it's real.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah, that's good. And sometimes people just need an example and need to be taught how to love. And that means receiving it, because it's something that they didn't get. So when you're getting love poured out on you, it can impact you in ways that you never knew.
Yeah. I mean, here's a really great example. Like, think about being in a group of friends where one friend is just eternally set with happiness.
Yeah.
Like every time you spend time with that group of people and there's this one person that's always happy, always joyful, you go away impacted by that. Like it's
Yeah.
impossible to go away and still be like a jerk or or down, because there's something about this person who's always on the up and up. They just affect you somehow, right?
Yeah.
Now, equally, the same thing can be applied, right? Like you
Oh
can have
yeah.
somebody who's like a Debbie Downer, and
You could be in a
that
good mood,
yeah,
meet a Debbie Downer, and leave as a Debbie Downer.
exactly.
Yeah.
So we do have more impact, and we can truly affect people's lives more than we realize,
Yeah.
right? So the question is just, are you willing to double down and love on your spouse the way that you know you have to actually have the marriage that you want, or heal the marriage that you want, or win your partner over again?
Yeah. That's good. Okay. Next. Can you really live a happy and peaceful life by just managing your thoughts? Okay, this is such a good one because I feel like people don't realize how much their thought life actually affects their life.
Yeah. 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 Most people come from this perspective that, like, doesn't my partner have to change first in order for change to take place?
Mhm.
So when most people ask me the question, like, can I truly have a happy and peaceful life just by managing my thoughts? Yeah, you can. And what we want to understand is that my feelings can only be controlled by me.
Exactly.
Nobody else can control my feelings. And this is a part of the misnomer about the idea of empathy. See, there's no way that we can actually truly be empathy, or empathetic, I should say, is the
Hmm.
proper grammar for it. And what I mean by that is this: we can share the same category of emotion, but have a completely different reason as to why we are both engaged in that emotion. So if Sarah and I were watching a movie together and this movie made us cry, the reason why Sarah is triggered to crying is not going to be the same reason why I'm triggered
Right.
in crying. So even though the scene that triggered us was identical, the meaning behind it is different. Why? Because Sarah's life experience and my life experience are completely different. So we're going to be triggered by very different things. It'll be the same scene, but we'll interpret it in a different way. So can I truly be peaceful and happy just by dealing and managing my thoughts? Yeah. Yeah. And in fact, that's actually where our suffering comes from. So we don't really ever suffer from actions. We suffer by how we think about those actions that were
Hmm.
done to us.
Yeah, that's really good. I know for myself, I I really suffer with I used to suffer with irrational thoughts, especially after having my child.
Hmm.
And I realized the way to combat that is first recognizing when I'm having that thought
Yeah.
because it literally affects how I'm feeling, my life, my viewpoint on everything, but just first realizing I'm having that thought and then really speaking the reality of the situation.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
that is so
Actually,
key.
that was brilliant. So let's what Sarah says, guys, like, for those of you listening, was bang on. And I'm just going to reinterpret it into like a really simple question. And this is really all that you have to ask yourself. Am I hurting because of my thinking, or am I hurting because of what happened to me?
Mhm.
If you just simply ask those two questions, you'll get right to the root of why you're upset or angry or frustrated or irritated right now. And the
Yep.
beauty of that is the minute you recognize that you're hurting because of what you're thinking, now you have power to do something about it,
Hmm.
right? Because you already know that if you're hurting because something happened to you, you already have power to do something about that,
Exactly.
right? Because that just happened.
Yeah.
But now that if you can acknowledge that, oh, I'm hurting because of what I'm thinking, now you actually have power to do something about your life, right? To bring
Exactly.
about happiness and peace.
Next question. What do I do when I am tired of giving love in my marriage?
Oh, this is so good.
Hmm.
Oh, this is so good. Okay. So this is yeah, this is a really controversial question, actually. Um, boy, how do I answer this? Because there's so much I could say. Okay, here's the simple thing. Here's the simple way for me to answer this. Again, the question is, what do I do when I'm tired of giving love in my marriage?
Yes.
You keep giving love. That's the
All
simple
right,
answer.
people, that's the answer.
Yeah, that's it. I'm sorry. This is it. Okay, next question. No, okay, no, let me qualify this. So, what we've done here in our modern day age and our modern culture is that we have mixed up the idea of being loved and what love is.
Mhm.
So, when we define being loved, we're actually using the words like affection, desire, um, want, lust. Um, these are these are the, being gentle, being kind. These are actually the words that we're trying to describe when we're talking about being loved. On the other hand, love in and of itself is an action.
Correct.
It's a choice that I make. And you can measure it. And if you guys go to my previous episode on marriage, you'll actually hear me answer that in a lot bigger way. And there's another episode even previous to that where I actually answer, is love a feeling? Okay, so go to that episode. I'll leave some comments and links down below for you guys. But to answer your question, guys, the reality is that love is a choice. It's an action.
Yeah.
And it's based out of the idea of when we get married, our whole wedding is based on a vow. And that vow is a promise of what I am going to do for my partner and what I'm going to do in serving her. But there's a stipulation to that. And the stipulation is that it's not done based on when I feel it. It's
Mhm.
that I'm just going to do it, whether I feel like it or not. So
Mhm.
every day, I don't feel like loving my wife. 365 days? Yeah, you better believe I'm not going
Oh
to want to
yeah.
feel like loving my wife all the time.
Yeah.
But I wake up, I choose to love my wife. That's where the distinction is. So, for those of you guys, if you're feeling tired of giving love, this is marriage. This is the real work. Keep giving. And understand this, guys, that in marriage, love is the platform of giving, it's not taking.
Mhm.
So always remember that if you're in a place where you're feeling like, what do I get out of this? Or you're asking, when am I going to get my share? That's called ego. So ego does not ever want to give. Ego always wants to take something.
Right. That's good. It's like that saying, choose love. That's exactly what it means.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Now, this next question, I know I have a lot of friends who have ended marriages from this question. So let's
Mm,
get into this one. What do I do when I am not in love with my partner anymore?
yeah, this is so great. I'm going to answer this in a really simple way. Um, and I heard this quote from a really masterful coach named Steve Hardison. And here's what I'm going to pass on to all of you guys, listeners, with this question. So, what do you do when you're not in love with your partner anymore?
Mhm.
Here's the answer: you create falling in love and you create falling out of love.
Mm.
So, if you're not in love with your partner anymore, it's because you created that. So the question is, do you know how you did that? Are you even aware of how you created falling out of love with your partner? Because I can tell you that it was just as easy to create falling in love.
Right.
And we all know this. When we first met our partner before marriage, I mean, we created love. I mean, I did everything that I can to have time with my wife before we got married.
Right.
Like I
Yeah.
moved heaven and hell. I mean,
Yeah.
like, oh, Sarah wants to hang out and play like, Nerf gun. No, sorry, Sarah, I'm feeling sick tonight. And what am I doing? I'm hunkered down at home waiting for the phone call, right, from my wife.
Exactly.
So I created falling in love when I first met my wife. I moved everything to spend time with my wife. I made decisions just so that I could spend time with my wife. All that's happened is that in our marriage, we've gotten lazy. We've
Yeah.
automated our marriage and we've stopped creating.
Yeah.
So the real answer is just, guys, if you're creating falling out of love right now, go back, start creating falling in love. Go back and do the things. get stuff out of the way. Start noticing what's taking away your focus, your time, your energy from loving your spouse, right?
Yeah.
Get back to the basics.
Yeah. That's great, because our next question kind of touches on that. What do we do if we can't seem to find time for date night?
Oh, this is so huge.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So there's a lot of options on this, but let me just start by saying this, guys. Like, I think that when we bring up the idea of date night, I think that it's really misplaced right now. And let me give you a cultural understanding to this. When we actually created the idea of a date night, like, think back to the 60s and 70s, or maybe even further back to, like, say, the 40s, 50s, and 60s. Date nights back then were magical. Because what would happen is I would take my wife out on a date. A date night was at a really awesome restaurant that had like a live band, and there was dancing and there was food, and we would be dressed up to the nines. I'd
I'm
either be
like
in a,
picturing
right?
Central Park, horse carriage ride.
Yes,
Like,
yes. Well,
where
and
am
this
I
is
now?
it. Like, this is like we would get dressed up. I'd be in a suit and tie or a tuxedo or something. Like date nights back then was a real thing. Like, it felt different. We don't do that anymore.
Right.
We don't really hold a date night sacred anymore. It's
Right.
not really valued. We go like date night is like, hey, I'm in my shorts and my
We're
flip
not
flops.
putting the effort into, yeah. The
Yeah, right.
effort
And
is
then
not
we'll hit a
there.
pub. Like, I think, all right, let's go. Let's have a date night at a pub, right? Like,
Right.
okay, I get it. Like, I'm not saying that you have to spend a lot of money. I'm just trying to give us a cultural context that date nights back then, we all dressed up for that. Like,
Mm-hmm.
that's how we used to execute a date night. I remember back in, like, for those of you that are listening, if you're not in Vancouver, think of something like a restaurant in your city that used to be like this, okay? But when I was growing up, in Vancouver, which is where Sarah and I live, there was a restaurant called the Tea House. And this restaurant, why I loved it is because it had a dress code. You weren't allowed in
Oh.
this restaurant unless you were in a suit and tie. So if you showed up in jeans, not a chance. You weren't even allowed to come into the restaurant. And if you came in with a sport jacket, and a collared shirt and some dress slacks, you'd have to rent a tie. And if you just came in without a jacket, you could rent a jacket, right? So they never had to worry about women because women would always get dressed up. But guys, we were sloppy and lazy. So this restaurant had a dress code, and that's what I loved about it. That's what a date night was like. It
Mm-hmm.
felt special. And we just don't honor it anymore. So that's my one gripe about how we operate with date nights, is that we don't treat it special. Okay.
Right.
Now, that being said, I think that the idea of a date night is actually not serving us in our modern day age. And this is what I mean. We typically go, when we use a date night, we'll go to a restaurant or we'll go to a movie afterwards. And in those cases, we're still on our phones. We've not put it away. And then we go to a movie where we're not even talking. So
Yeah.
the whole time we spent, like, say, 3 hours with each other, and we've actually not had a conversation. So it's really not helpful. What I
Unless
would
you want to make out in the theater.
Well, okay, yeah, there you go. So unless you're hunkered down in the back corner where it's super dark,
Unless that's your rule. Yes.
and you're watching some movie that nobody else wants to watch, and you're the only
Exactly.
couple in the movie theater. That's right. You can have some connection there.
Yes.
But outside of that, we're really not connecting. We're
Mhm.
really not having real connection off of that where it serves us. So here's what I would recommend for those of you listeners. Um, Flip it around. Don't think of it as a date night. Think of it as a date day. Now, many of us are struggling with this because we all have kids and it's hard to get babysitters because we don't know who we can trust. And it's COVID-19 and all of these little
Mhm.
external worries, or we don't have help, or we can't find a babysitter, or we can't get our parents. So think of it like a date day. Do all your errands with your kids. And as you're doing it, hold your wife's hands,
That's so
your
good.
husband's hands in the car.
Yeah.
Already groom yourself, like get your emotions all ready. right?
Yeah.
Steering in that direction. As you're pushing the shopping cart through the grocery store, your kids are still there. Every now and then, go by, give your spouse a kiss, right? Flirt with them. Like look over top of like the vegetables or the, or the fruit and wink at them or flirt with them in some awesome way. Get the juices flowing. That's
And let me tell you,
right.
that is foreplay for women.
Yes.
It is. It is.
Exactly.
Foreplay is an all day thing for women. And that one right there, yeah.
Exactly. All right. So, guys, are you listening? Change it to a date day. Now, here's what's beautiful about this is that if you can groom this right through the whole day with each other, then one of the best things to do is find some friends and build a pack that once a month you guys exchange services of looking after each other's kids, right? So then now you're really looking at 2 hours, right? Maximum 3, where you're on a date, trusted friends are looking after your kids, right? And then you guys can, now you're already primed for it. You're not starting cold into the date. You're already warmed up through that process. Okay. So that would be the kind of like the picturesque way of how I would recommend people going on a date night. Change it to a date day. Have the whole day for that. Now, if you don't have money, you don't have help with your kids, or you're not you don't have kids yet, you're just a couple, but you don't have money, you're struggling financially, you can still have a wonderful date time. Guys,
100%.
like take your car, go to a park, right? Even on a rainy day, you could sit in the hatch, right? You can have a picnic in the car. It doesn't take much. Dollar store is selling like tablecloths that are like funky looking. Get that. Go get some hot dogs from Japa Dog, right?
Yep.
Or something. Get some sushi. Get some wine. You can have that all in a park. It's really easy. We just make so many excuses. We make up so many different obstacles that get in the way of actually having a date together. You
Yeah.
don't really even need that much time. Most of the times, if you guys would just go for a walk holding hands, man, that's already a lot,
Yep.
right? That's more than most couples will actually even give. So if you did that like 4 days out of like a 5-day work week, and then on a weekend, you just spend a little extra time and effort, man, that goes miles. So
Yeah.
that's how I would answer, that you can't find time. Oh, by the way, actually, let me say this. When I do hear people say, I don't have the time, let's qualify this here. To me, that's a load of crap.
100%.
Okay. Now, here's the reason why. Okay. Listeners, listen up. Here's the reason. Anytime we say that we don't have enough time, all that means is you've not prioritized what's important in your life.
100%.
There's no such thing. Sarah and I, we have the same amount of time allocated to us that you guys all have. It's not like Sarah and I won the lottery and God gave us 27 hours and 8 days out of the week. That's not the case, right?
No.
That's not the case. We have the same amount of hours given to us as you guys all have. So when I hear people say that there's no time, that's not true. You've got to start prioritizing what's really important to you. So figure that out and you'll realize that there is more time in a 24-hour period for a date than you realize. All right. It is available for everyone.
Yeah. Think of all those people that you babysat for in the past and all those IOUs, rack them up and start using them, people, because they're there. I know one thing, when my husband and I go on a date, we have a couple of rules. One is we don't talk about the kids and we don't talk about work. Obviously, no devices.
Yeah.
But I find these days couples, their go-to is work and kids. I mean, we're talking about work and kids all the time. Come on. Like, don't you not want to talk about that for 2 seconds? So we don't talk about the kids. We don't talk about work. And when you sit there and you realize you have nothing to say, that's when the real connection happens because you've opened it up.
Yes. And you know what? Sarah made a brilliant point here. Here's what I do, guys. And when I say guys and gals, those of you, my listeners, let me just share with you guys what I do for date night. I will always have 3 date questions that I've planned to ask my wife. because some things come natural for me may not come natural for my wife. And I should never expect her to do things that come natural for me. Likewise, she will never expect me to do things that come natural for her. Right. So if building conversation is really natural for me, I'll make it easy for us by coming prepared with 3 date questions. Now, if you're stuck understanding what a date question is or how to get a date question, 2 things. Google it. Just put in date questions. You're going to get a ton of resources.
Yeah.
And if that doesn't help you, you can go to my website, claritycoach.ca, and you can download 40 of them for free.
There you go.
So there's no excuses, folks. There are resources out there to have really deep, meaningful relationships and conversations with your partner.
Yep.
All right. So we are coming up against the commercial break. So we will be right back with you. Sarah and I will continue our conversation in just a minute. So stay tuned. We'll be right back.
More with Rockie Lee, strategic intervention coach and host of the Clarity Coach podcast after this.
Having clarity in our lives is of the utmost importance. Clarity is the pathway to change, the juice that gets us up in the morning, the purpose that inspires us to strive for something greater. Clarity is also the ability to see things in a different way than how we believe them to be, giving us options to the possibilities that surround us. Clarity gives us the courage to bring change to the issues that hinder us from believing for a better tomorrow. Rockie Lee is a strategic intervention coach and will help you find clarity in life, in relationships, and in personal development. For more information on Clarity Coach workshops or to book a coaching session with Rockie Lee, call us at 778-883-7203. That's 778-883-7203. Or visit us online at www.claritycoach.ca/bookings. That's www.claritycoach.ca/bookings.
Now, back to Rockie Lee, strategic intervention coach and host of the Clarity Coach podcast.
Well, welcome back, listeners. So for those of you that are just tuning in, we are talking to Sarah. And Sarah and I, we are going over some of the most asked questions that couples have been asking who are truly seeking help in their marriages. And so if you're just joining in, finish the rest of this episode with us and then rewind and listen to the front end of it, because there's a lot of great questions that Sarah asked me here that we were talking about. And she's just added so much information for those of you guys that are listening as well. So Sarah, take us away. What's the next question that we would have here?
All right. So this next question, sometimes when I get asked this, I don't want to be judgmental, but I'm all about therapy. So it's just mind-boggling to me. But does marriage counseling, therapy, relationship coach really work? What do we look for when searching for one? Yes, It works, people.
It really does. Sarah and I can absolutely testify to this. It really does. And here's what I will say. All 3 of these professions absolutely serve marriages in such great ways. All right. And what you're really looking for are 2 really basic things. This is what I always recommend to people. You're looking for someone who's experienced, who has done this before, obviously, but here's what they should be able to give you. They should be able to give you tools. That is the most important thing. Because if all that you're coming away from is just a great conversation about something, then you're not really diving in deep and you're not really practicing. So there are 2 things that you're really wanting to kind of spend your time and energy on. And the first one is just really going in deep. You want an experienced counselor, therapist, or relationship coach who is able to take you guys deep. You want to address thoughts. You want to address needs, and you want to be able to address forgiveness. Now, out of those three things, you want somebody who also can give you tools so that after your time is done with that counselor, therapist, or relationship coach, you guys will still be left with the tools to be able to do it on your own long after you are done your sessions. So look for somebody who has the skills and experience to take you guys deep and exploring what's really going on, what's really hindering your marriage, but also look for somebody who's able to provide you tools, who's able to provide you a skill set so that you guys can reproduce this process when you guys are on your own and you're getting triggered by your own stresses away from the sessions.
That's good. And you know, I want to empower people in this one too. Trust your gut. When you're sitting with that person in front of you, this trained person, does your gut say you are safe or this person is for you? You know, it happens sometimes, but you know, my husband and I, once upon a time, we had a therapist where my gut, it just something didn't feel right. And every session I left feeling more condemned, more crappy about myself. So I think she just didn't have the language to really frame what my issues were. And she needed to empower me, not condemn me. Right. So my gut from the beginning, the alarm bells were going off, but I didn't listen to it. So I really want to empower people out there. Just your gut is there for a reason. So go with it.
Yeah, I love that insight. And I'm going to throw one more thing. You know, Sarah just really helped me remember that I feel like this is a really important ingredient to look for. The profession of counseling and therapy and relationship coaching is so vast in North America. So the resources are out there. Here's what I'm starting to hear back from some clients, that they've been to some people, some professions, where they actually didn't believe in bringing the marriage back together, which is shocking to me. Okay. So find somebody.
These are marriages that don't have abuse in them?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So this is like, we're not talking the extreme cases where there's like physical abuse or anything like that. We're just talking like normal marriages that they've just been in, you know, they're just in whatever pattern that they're in, they're stuck in. And I'm starting to hear more and more reports of how that there are a lot of professionals out there that really don't believe in holding the marriage together. So I'm always of the thought of finding somebody who truly believes in marriage, who truly believes in fighting for you in your marriage. So in my practice, I am not standing for either person. I'm not standing for the husband and I'm not standing for the wife. I am standing on behalf of marriage. I'm fighting for marriage. Make sense, guys? So for those of you guys that are listening, as you guys are going through the process of searching for help, look for somebody who absolutely believes in marriage, who believes in creating love, who believes in creating and falling in love. And I don't know if you can go wrong that way when somebody's in your corner from that perspective.
And Rockie just gave you guys a great tip. It's not putting you first. It's not putting your spouse first. It's putting your marriage first.
That's right.
Right there is the answer. That's so good. Okay. Moving on. What do you do when marriage counseling, therapy, or relationship coaching just hasn't worked?
Yeah, this is a great question. So I'm going to answer it from a contextual perspective. When I made a vow to my wife on our wedding day, I made a promise to my wife, and the promise was this: in sickness and in health, good times and bad times, till death do us part. That was my promise. So if I have a marriage counselor, therapist, or relationship coach, and it's not working for us, if I truly love my spouse, I'm just going to go find another one right after.
Yeah.
And I'm going to keep going until I find one that works.
Yeah.
Why? Because I love my spouse. Why would I want to waste more days and hours of my life arguing and being in pain and suffering with my spouse when I truly love them? And if I truly love them, why would I not give it my all? So So folks, my answer is, if you truly love your spouse, fight for your marriage. Fight for it. Do not give up. Go back, revisit your vows, remind yourself of the promise. And then if somebody is not working for you, whoever that counselor, therapist, or relationship coach is, if they're not working for you, don't fret, don't worry.
Yeah.
Finish your time with that person, honor it, do the work, then go find somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
Keep going until you found somebody that really works, or maybe it's just that you guys need specialties in a lot of areas. So find 3 people that specialize in different things and build on that in each time that you guys go. But I will recommend this. Please do not sell your marriage short. Do not think that this is a fix-it job. We're talking about a lifestyle. So you're not going into a professional to fix your marriage. They're not going to do that for you. You want to go with the attitude that this professional is going to help you change the way that you lived your life together. It's a lifestyle. So don't commit to just 4 sessions, because that's a magic show. We can't do magic. This is not what we're wired for.
That's a miracle.
So don't go for 4 sessions. What you want to do is bare minimum do 6 months, right? So if you go every week, that's 24 sessions. That's not a lot. That time's going to go by fast, but it'll be so worth it. So worth it if you're willing to give it your all, right? So that's my advice. Just keep going, keep working, keep finding somebody that will provide it for you.
Chances are, if you start asking around your friends, colleagues, whatever, if they have a marriage counselor that has worked for them, because people don't talk about this openly, you will be surprised at how many people say yes.
Yep.
And chances are you will find one that works for you.
That's right.
Yeah.
And you know what, surprisingly, look, you can tell, right? Like if you just Google the counselor or therapist or relationship coach, you'll see the reviews.
Yeah.
And so you'll know if they just got friends posting reviews for them, or if it's like real clients. You'll actually be able to read that. So that's a really great way to at least shortlist like who you should, consider having a consultation with.
Yeah. All right. Okay, here is one I know people are wondering, but are too afraid to ask. What if we are lacking sexual intimacy and have very little sex? What can we do?
Oh,
help, Rockie, all the sex couples out there.
All right. Where's that sex song playing in the background?
So many.
I need it. Okay. This is a really great question. Look, this is actually a really important question, and I know that we joke about this question a lot, and a lot of it is just because we're not really open and honest about how important sexual intimacy really is in marriage. Now, here's how I'll answer it. Number 1, sex in and of itself is mechanics. It is really about a skill set. So if you're just having non-enjoyable sex, like it's not as satisfying as it was before, all it is that you've just got to learn your skills. So you can do it a couple of different ways. You can get some videos for it that will teach you the skills. There's some great books out there that talk about that. I'll leave some links down below, guys, in the podcast, where you guys can just quickly go get some resources on this. Or you can go out and you can hire some really great counselors, therapists, or coaches, and some of them specialize in sex, and they're super, super helpful. So number 1, sex in and of itself, it's a mechanics, it's a skill set. Go learn some new techniques, try some new things, and then practice. Have fun. That's the first part, right? I would say that for the most couples that I work with, one of the main reasons why they have a low sex experience or satisfaction in the marriage is simply because they got lazy. It's just not fun anymore. And we all do this. We totally get lazy. We get so stuck with our routine of life that we're just going by the motion. We're having sex in the same place, same location, same time, same position. So it's boring. So start implementing variety. Implement like some fun stuff. Get some sex games that would get the juices going. Play truth or dare. Try different clothing. Try fantasies. And try some sex toys. There's some great sex toys that could really get you guys all, turned on, and then you guys can go have some sex. So there's a lot of things that you can do mechanics wise, because it's just a skill set. You're just adding skills to it. Now, the other half of it is about how do we build intimacy with sex?
Yes.
This part is about communication. It's about expressing to each other what you need when you're having sex, what you would like more of, what you'd like less of, what you'd like to try. It's all about talking and sharing. So it's a two-parter. You've got to learn how to share.
Yeah.
And so here's what I'll say, that couples who are struggling with sexual intimacy, they're actually having communication problems. It's not a mechanics problem. And I can see the difference. So when I'm working with couples and they don't know how to share how they get turned on to their partner, or what their partner can do more of to get them turned on, or to even have an orgasm, I find that correlates with how they actually have communication or don't have communication. So learn communication. Find somebody who will teach you the skill sets of communicating through needs, not feelings. You want to communicate needs, because needs are actually born from experiences, not a feeling. You can't feel a need. You actually have to experience a need. Then you'll get a feeling, right? So find a coach, find a therapist, find a counselor who will actually help you communicate through needs, and then learn how to share what you guys need more of or less of, and then go with the mechanics, learn the skill set, and then practice it. And then lastly, have fun.
Have fun.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Have fun. Lots of fun. All right. So that's the key.
I also find trust that your partner wants to please you.
Yes.
Right?
Absolutely.
And that's why you don't ask. You're afraid that they're going to say no, or they're going to judge you or something. No. Trust that your partner wants to please you, because you want to please them. Right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Have fun, guys. Okay, next question. What is the quickest way to resolve conflict?
Oh, so good. Okay, quickest way, just simply ask, honey, what do you need from me right now? So that's the quickest way. So that right there, that was like $1 million tool that I just gave for free. This is all that you need to ask. All right, honey, what do you need from me right now? Okay, that actually will solve it all. Okay.
I believe it.
And here's the reason why. We have to understand that in communication, what we've been trying to do is adopt business principles of communication into relationships, and they're not applicable. They're not translatable. And let me qualify this. When I'm at work and I'm working with people, the reason why I communicate is because the goal at work is to solve something, to do something, right? Or to fix something. That's the goal at work. So that's why I communicate. But here's the thing, is that if I'm working with Sarah at work, I don't have to care about Sarah. I just need to know what I need to do.
Yep.
Right? So it's a really simple thing. It's very task driven. Now, communication relationships has nothing to do with the goals of fixing, solving, or doing. Okay. So communication in relationship is based on understanding. That's the goal. So when we apply this to our marriage, what happens is our conflicts become a series of us trying to solve something, and then we're not getting the reaction that we want. Now I'm getting more upset because my partner's getting more upset. And then pretty soon we escalate it to name calling. And then pretty soon we escalate that into blame. So that's where the conflict all arises, because we're just trying to fix. Okay. So if you could just slow down and just simply realize that this is all about understanding, then if you just simply ask the question, honey, what do you need from me right now? That actually will stop it all. That would really seriously end conflict right there. If everybody just did that, right, that would take care of it. Outside of that, the only other thing that would really remove conflict is, again, just apologizing. If you've known you've done something that has hurt your partner, whether you did it intentionally or unintentionally, but you know that it actually brought the result of hurt, just apologize.
Yes.
Ask for forgiveness and then move on. You'll be so surprised how much just doing that will really remove conflict.
Yeah. An apology 100% can soften a heart.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That's good. Okay. Why am I always upset with my spouse? How can I tell my spouse to stop making me upset?
All right. So we don't have enough time to go into this question in detail. But here's the simple answer. If I am getting upset by my spouse, the truth of it is I'm thinking about something. I'm already interpreting something. And the best way for me to say it would be this. We never hear what someone said. We imagine what they meant.
Mm.
And that's what's really going on. Is that every time I get upset because of something that my spouse has said to me or done to me, I've already imagined what my spouse was trying to do. I've imagined it in the worst case scenario, and I've believed it.
Yeah.
That's why I'm upset. So how do we tell our spouse to not trigger us in getting upset? The easiest way is by simply saying, honey, this is what I need right now from you. And then give them 3 options. That's the key. And typically what we tend to do is like, we'll blow up and we'll express it all in emotions. And so normally what happens is kind of like, God damn it, I'm so angry at you. Why are you doing this to me? And then we expect our spouse to understand and interpret what that anger is and then try and do something about it. And then even when they do, it's wrong because it's not what we actually wanted. So one of the best ways in telling our partner or helping our partner learn more about us is by simply articulating, what do you need? And what are 3 practical things that they can do for you right now? So let's say I need my wife to love me right now. I don't feel loved by her. Then I could tell her that. I could say, honey, I really don't feel loved right now. But could I make a request of 3 things? And you can do any one of these 3 things, and it would mean a lot to me. When I come home tonight, could you just give me a kiss? Can we go for a walk and you initiate holding my hands? Or can we actually have some sexual intimacy tonight? So all 3 of these requests were doable, plus they escalate in intensity, and they're options. So now I'm giving my spouse the freedom to say, hey, look, I'm really, really tired, but can I just give you a kiss tonight? Hey, marvelous. Then that was an experience. So be super practical, guys. Articulate what you need, and then come up with 3 very practical requests that your partner can execute for you in 30 minutes or less.
That's good. I feel like this is something we preach to our children that we can 100% apply to ourselves.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Right? Okay, now here is a super common problem. We lack communication in our marriage. How can we improve?
All right. I love this question. Okay, here's because I'm super practical. And if you've been listening to my podcast for quite some time, you know that I'm a super practical professional when it comes to marriage counseling. So here's the practical tool for you guys. Number 1, get a journal, go to the dollar store, right? Buy a journal. They're about $1.50 each. Have like 5 of them, put 1 in the cars, right? Put 1 in each of the cars if you got 2, right? But definitely have a journal in the car, have a journal in every room of your house. Now, here's how you're going to do it. Every time you guys have a conflict or you're trying to communicate to each other something, just pause, go grab the journal and write down verbatim what your spouse is saying. Start writing things down. Because what we end up doing is we don't listen. We just imagine what we think our partner said or meant. You'll find that if you just write things down, you'll realize that your partner's not saying what you think your partner is trying to say.
Right.
That your partner is just actually saying something really basic.
Yeah.
And you can tell because, when we get text messages, those text messages that you get from your friends, and then sometimes like you were already in a bad space because something went on during the day, and then your friend texts you something and it was so off the cuff, but how they texted it made you already you would read the text message out in your head and interpret it with emotions and inflections and nuances, right?
Yeah.
And then it would just drive us more, in anger and agitation and upsetness. Well, this is exactly what we're doing, I would say 80% of the time in communication. So the number one go-to method, get a journal, start writing things down. And once your partner's done saying stuff, all you need to do is say, hey, honey, let me read this right back to you, just so that I know I've heard correctly.
Yeah.
And your partner will be able to check you on that. Your partner will say, no, honey, that's not what I'm trying to say. I meant this. Then you can go, oh, great. Can you say that again to me? I got that wrong. My apologies. And then just write it down again. And you'll find if you just do this simple practice, what it will do is it will interrupt all your imaginations and assumptions about what your partner might be trying to do or might be trying to say. And you'll be so focused on the words that you'll end up actually listening better.
Yeah. For our practical friends out there, what do you say about writing notes in your cell phone?
Oh,
Is that
okay.
the same or?
Yeah. So here's how I'll answer that. I always recommend for couples, when you're at home, put the cell phones down. Do not text each other at home. And here's the reason why. We have taken technology and we have made it such a big part of our business and working life that we're so used to just communicating tasks and not really sharing how we feel about things and what we really need. So I find that when couples try to write notes down on a phone, they're becoming more business minded in their reply, that they're actually not injecting humanness in their reply. And there's something different when we all write, like in our journal, we write way differently than what we would text, to ourselves as a note from work. There's a lot more human, like humanity is probably the best way to say it. There's just a lot more feeling and humanity in what I'm writing when I'm journaling. So this is why I always prefer couples to write things down and not text notes to themselves, because you remove the humanity in the form of communication.
That's a really good point. That's good. Okay, next question. How do I trust my partner again after being hurt? This is a hard one.
Yeah, this is a really, really hard question, but it's a great one. And again, this is like a really deep subject, but let me answer it this way. The common misnomer is that we have to earn trust. And it's just not true, guys. It's a lie. The truth is, no one can ever earn my trust. Why? Because I'm in full control of who I choose to give my trust to. So think about like, tell us when they come by and they're like, hey, knock, 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 I'd like to, hardwire fiber optics in your place. Would you like this? I'm the guy that was like, no, I don't want it. Don't even tell me about it. I don't want to know. And I was like, bye-bye, right? What did I just do? I immediately made a judgment. I chose not to give that salesperson my trust. There's no way that person could have earned it. Same thing when I go to Best Buy. Why do I flinch at Best Buy when a worker comes up and asks if I need help? It's like I got punched in the kidney. It's like, oh my God. So what happens there? A blue shirt employee from Best Buy comes up and asks me, do I need help? What do? No, thank you very much. Why? Because I can already read a mile away. This person has no idea what they're going to be talking about.
Right.
And so we've already prejudged people. This is why we cannot earn trust. All I can do is give trust if I'm the one that's giving it. If I'm the one trying to have more trust for my partner because I've broken it, what I'm wanting to do is create an atmosphere where she will give me more of her trust.
Mm-hmm.
That's the main issue. That's the game. So how do we do that? I can start by just actually being more consistent in the
Yeah.
things that I know I haven't been consistent in.
Yep.
I could own my words, my attitude. I could apologize. All of these things will create an atmosphere where my partner will give me more of her trust. Same thing. If I create more time and sacrifice to spend time with my partner, I'm creating more trust. So
Mm-hmm.
my partner is now going to be actually more uh, what's the word, she's going to be more inclined to give me
Yeah.
more trust. So that's really the main thing that I want to help you guys understand, is that no one can really ever earn your trust. That's the first thing that I want you guys to understand about trust. Now, the question was, how do I trust my partner again? This is now about boundaries. So it's one part, understanding how trust is actually derived. The second part is really about boundaries. So you just need to set boundaries. And boundaries isn't about keeping somebody out. And it's not like a process of like, if you do this and don't do it well, you're done. It's not,
Mm-hmm.
that's not what boundaries are. So let's define boundaries. Boundaries is essentially like a fence around my property. It's not meant to keep people out, and it is penetrable. You can drive your car into my
Right.
fence and break it down. So it's not really meant to be a wall. So what is it for? A boundary is me pointing to where the gate is. And the gate is defining how I want to live my life based on values. And as people want to come through my gate and honor that value, I will give them more time, more energy, and more trust. But if I have to keep coming out to meet that person, then I'm going to naturally give them less time, less focus, less
Mm-hmm.
energy, and less trust. So
Yeah.
it's not preventing me from building a relationship, but it's defining for me how I will give more in this relationship when somebody can honor my boundaries. So that's the two-parter. One is understanding trust can only be given, can't be earned. But number two, it's about setting boundaries that will cultivate a way where our relationship is held sacred and it's honored with respect.
Yeah. That's really good. All right. Here is one that I know a lot of people need to hear the answers to. Is there hope after getting a divorce?
Absolutely. There absolutely is. There is always
Absolutely.
hope. Yeah.
Yes.
And I have many clients that come to me who have gone through a horrible divorce, and
Yeah.
they found love on the other side.
Yeah.
So please do not give up
Mm-hmm.
on being loved. Please do not play it safe by choosing not to allow somebody in your life.
Mm-hmm.
Really take the time, heal, and allow somebody to come back into your life because it's worth it. There is somebody out
Absolutely.
there who will absolutely love on you and accept you for exactly who you are. And they will give you the love that you actually are needing because they're going to be wanting to learn how to do that.
Yeah.
So there is hope. There is hope. So please do not lose hope, people.
Yeah. Okay. Why am I the one who was putting in all the work in our relationship?
Yeah, this is a really, really, really important question to ask. And um, let me answer it this way. Anytime I hold an assumption that I am putting the work in first or more, what I'm really doing is I'm setting up an expectation. And the danger of an expectation is that I'm now beginning to see my partner only from a conditional process, which means what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to make my partner more like me. So when I hold that question, why am I giving into this relationship more? Why am I putting more work into this? What I'm saying is you're not doing what I think you should be doing in our marriage. And that already destroys intimacy and connection.
Yeah.
So the pivot is really just simply accepting that there's no guarantee in our marriage and love. It was never a guarantee. It was merely a process of me choosing to give. So the best way to get around this question is by simply saying that you're going to continue to give love and work on your marriage the way that you are trying to heal it, but you're going to make requests that will meet a need for you. And that would free you up from having to just give expectations all the time that cannot ever be met to your satisfaction.
Yeah. And you know, the truth is sometimes you don't know the work that your partner is putting into it because you're only seeing it through your lens. You don't know how many times they've bitten their tongue or, you know, there's so many things that they're doing that's going on in their mind. So I wouldn't make that assumption.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay. Here's our next question. What if my partner will never be able to meet my needs?
Oh, yeah. And the straight up answer is that that's impossible. If your partner is living and breathing, they're not dead, they can meet your needs, right? So a great example of this is I know a wonderful speaker, and I'm probably going to botch up his name. So Nick, please forgive me for botching up your last name, but I believe it's called Nick Vujicic. And here's a wonderful story of a man who was born with no arms, no legs, and he's married, 3 beautiful kids. So here's a testimony of a guy who doesn't have a lot of our main appendages, and they've been able to cultivate a loving marriage where needs are properly being met on both sides. So it's always possible. There is no such thing as not able to. I think the question that we want to pivot to is, am I clear enough with my requests of what I need? Are they practical enough? And my suggestion is always make your requests able to be fulfilled in 30 minutes or less. And if your request takes more than 60 minutes, that's a project. That's no longer a request. So if you can make your request really simple, really practical, it can be executed in 30 minutes or less, you're always bound to experience your need being met. It can be done. And it can be taught and trained. Can be
that I
learned.
believe. Yeah. So on the flip side to that question, what if I don't want to meet the needs of my partner?
Yeah. I get this question a lot, and here's my answer. If you're feeling like you don't want to meet the needs of your partner, that tells me that you're hurt. That tells me that you've already quite possibly moved from resentment to bitterness. So what that means is you'll need to get help. You'll have to learn how to forgive your partner for whatever it is that your partner has done to hurt you. So that's really the main thing is we don't realize how powerful forgiveness is. And here's how I normally say this. Forgiveness in marriage is like oil to a car. So you can have as much gasoline as you want in your car, but if you don't have any oil in your engine, it's going to die. You're going to blow up your engine. It's not going to go anywhere. And forgiveness is the same for marriage.
Yeah.
If you don't know how to forgive, that is a key tool that you guys need to learn. Learn how to forgive, because that poison's just chewing you up. And that's essentially what's stopping you from wanting to meet the needs of your partner.
Yeah. That's really good. And you know what? There's a lot of resources out there to teach you what forgiveness looks like. I think a lot of people have misconceptions that it's supposed to be quick, it's a feeling. But there are a lot of tools out there that can, one, make you feel normal that you're feeling the things that you are.
Yeah.
right? But just really helping you walk out that process, because it's a process.
It is.
Yeah.
It is.
Okay. Last question. Bring it home, Rocky.
All right.
What are 3 things that destroy marriages or prevents it from growing?
All right. Top 3 things. Making love a feeling destroys marriages. I would say the second one, and probably the most important one, is pride. Pride's actually the number 1 killer of all marriages. It's not addictions, it's not infidelity, and it's not finances. Those are all symptoms that something's already wrong in the marriage. But ultimately, in every case where marriage has not worked out, in my practice, it's always been because pride has gotten in the way. Somebody has chosen not to humble themselves. Somebody's chosen not to apologize or ask for forgiveness. Somebody's chosen not to love. So choosing not to love is pride, right? There's no other way to interpret that. So making love a feeling, pride. Here's the last one: unforgiveness. Choosing to stay bitter. And guys, let me define bitterness for you. So bitterness is like you sipping on poison every day, but hoping somebody else dies. That's essentially what bitterness is. So you're drinking enough that it's actually hurting you from a long-term perspective, but not a short-term. So you're not going to die immediately, but you're going to die over a process of drinking poison for 5 years, right? So that's what bitterness does, is that it's a slow-growing cancer. It just invades you and it spreads, and then it defiles how you see things. And I find that all the marriages that have broken up, if it wasn't really about they couldn't figure out how to love again, or they didn't humble themselves, really the main blowing up is that there's bitterness that got so much in the way and no one wanted to forgive, or one person did not want to forgive.
Yeah. And that word that you used is so on the money. Cancerous. I mean, bitterness causes cancer. That is just something, if you can get rid of that in your life, I would suggest focusing on that one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That it is. Well, Sarah, 18 questions. Wow.
Did it.
So, wow, look, thank you so much, Sarah, for being on this episode of Love Talks. Thank you so much for helping me answer these questions with our listeners. And, both Sarah and I, we really pray that we've been able to provide all of you listeners some real valuable information and insight for couples relationships. And as a reminder to all of you, my listeners, I am absolutely available for free consultation. So don't hesitate to reach out. If you guys are really needing help, just visit me at claritycoach.ca and set up an appointment. It's free, guys. So just don't be ashamed. Don't be afraid. Don't be embarrassed. Just reach out for help. And if I can't help you, I'd be more than happy to point you to somebody that could be a specialist in the area that you might be struggling with. Sarah, for you, tell our listeners where they can find you online again.
You can reach me on Instagram at Sarah Surh. That's Sarah with an H, and Surh, S-U-R-H.
Wonderful. Well, thank you again, Sarah. Thank you to all of you, my listeners. Reach out anytime. You can find me at claritycoach.ca/love talks. Again, that's claritycoach.ca/love talks. And please don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this episode. And we will catch you next time on episode 21 of Love Talks. Thank you all again. Take care.
Thanks for listening to the Clarity Coach Podcast with Rockie Lee, Strategic Intervention Coach. If you have any questions regarding Clarity Coach or the Clarity Coach workshops, please call us at 778-883-7203. That's 778-883-7203. And visit us online at www.claritycoach.ca. That's www.claritycoach.ca.